Evening, cheeseheads. Welcome to Gibbo and HG Instant Reaction Show. We were both really looking forward to getting back to doing these, and then Spurs turned up tonight. So you've got me and HG talking you through tonight's events. We've just been going at it backstage, haven't we, HG, talking about putting it all to rights, what's happened. But are we going to bother starting with the lineup?
No. First off, Gibbo, right? We have to say happy birthday. I'm sorry it's such a bad day otherwise, but Spurs have ruined it a little bit. But happy birthday! I know you're only 21, but you look great.
Yeah. Well, look what they've done to me. Look at the bags under my eyes, mate. Look at my receding hairline. That's just from watching Spurs the second half tonight.
Yeah, seriously. Look, so. No, you're right. I don't really want to talk about the team because I have a feeling it's going to come out during the game or when we discuss the game about what went wrong and why we looked great in some parts and not so great in others. But we can talk about the first half, right? Let's get the good stuff out of the way first.
Let's do it. First half. I thought we were front foot. I thought we played with intent, as we have done, as we do pretty much try to every week. But we should have we should have put them to bed, shouldn't we? Let's be honest. We started off as we always do. The goal didn't come, but we scored a goal from a corner. Fantastic header from QT Romero. What do you think, HG? Decent goal? Happy at that point?
I was very happy at that point. Scored again. I mean, I didn't. It was one of those ones where you couldn't really cheer it because you're just watching, and then suddenly it hits the net. You're like, oh, had it been from the other angle and we'd seen it leave his head and we could see it arching into the far corner, we'd have been all excited. But as we were just kind of watching, like, oh, it's in. And even Fabianski seemed to have that response of like, oh, maybe I should have dived for that. Oh, whoops. But Spurs first half, but especially the first 20, 25 minutes, Spurs first half were incredible between the boxes.
Yeah.
Right? We would win the ball, we would play it around. West Ham were just running around like headless chickens trying to get anywhere near the ball. Was it 92% possession before we scored in the first 10 minutes? I mean, like, I don't know what 92% of 600 is, but it means that West Ham had the ball for like 50 seconds in 10 minutes.
They couldn't keep us. They couldn't keep hold of the ball, could they? Until towards the end of the half, HG, we had them pinned back, didn't we? Yeah, we were literally, it was just all Spurs.
Yeah, and we were great. Like, we saw runs from Udogie behind the back, like behind the line, getting behind West Ham. West Ham really had no idea or solution for what we were doing. The goal for Spurs, and this is kind of where it kind of falls apart a little bit, came from a set piece. It didn't come from open play, and that's the thing Spurs struggle with. We do not create chances. Like, I've talked about, Spurs taking chances in previous games, and that the reason why we weren't winning them is because we weren't taking them. But when you think about it, like, the stuff that we did create tonight was kind of snatched early on, or we'd get into great positions and then not shoot and realize that we should have shot. So the next time we get into a half decent position, we suddenly start shooting as if it's the last thing the only thing we can do. And so it's that decision making when going forward. And I think, to be fair, Ange said in his presser before the game that in the final third we're still lacking. That played out again tonight, because for the first 45 minutes, when you've got that much of the ball, you have to create more chances. You have to test the opposition goalkeeper. And Fabianski was never really tested in that first 45 minutes. It was just pretty football from Spurs. We would get round the back. We would beat them time and time again. Like, the unit itself was working fine. But as soon as we got within 20, 25 yards of the goal, we suddenly didn't know what to do.
No, because, I mean, obviously we're in some groups and stuff, and Højbjerg and Bissouma were taking a bit of a bashing, which I thought was pretty unfair, actually, because I said to you, I thought they were coming, I thought they were showing for the ball, I thought they were getting the ball forward to the forward players, and that's where the problem lies, is the clinical nature of the Spurs players, and not just taking chances, but when they're in that position to, just when they get in the position and they've got to lay it off to someone to get a shot, or they've got to make a decision on the person who to pass to, and they fuck it up. But this is something that I've been chomping on a bit for a while, haven't I? I've got a bee in my bonnet about it, and it cost us. I know it sounds really old-fashioned, but it's as if, I mean, we've gone 1-0 up. What is it? Last 5 games?
Yep.
You've got to put teams to bed. City, well, and that's what we've had that happen to us. We haven't put teams to bed like the Villa game, and they've made us pay. And pretty much us with City at the weekend.
And the funny thing is, like I said this at the start of the season when we were winning games, that actually, like, that first half against Man United, they could have had 2 or 3 and they didn't. And then we get the first goal. United have their heads go down. And then it looks as if when you look back at it, well, Spurs win 2-0, it's quite comfortable. But it wasn't really comfortable until that first went in. Now we're out the traps fantastically. I mean, we're scoring goals within the first 10 minutes of almost every game right now. But then I don't know if the team is taking their foot off the gas, but it does almost appear as if, right, we've done something and now we can relax for a little bit. And unfortunately, like I realize that we can't play gung-ho for 90 minutes. We can't do that. We don't have the players. We don't have the substitutes. We're unable to really do that. So obviously you need to take breathers at various points in the game. But again, like, you have to step on the throat when you can. Like, I'd much
100%.
rather see Spurs go full pelt for 30 minutes and then take the last 10, 15 minutes off, because then obviously with a half-time break, you're getting quite a big chunk of time. But get that second, the game's over. West Ham are then looking to, for damage limitation. And sadly for Spurs, we just didn't look like getting that second goal. I don't remember Fabianski making a save.
No.
Maybe he did, but not at 1-0. I don't remember much.
Yeah, like I see this from Calso here. I totally agree with that. Phil, in the comments, I think we just tire. I'm not having it. I think there's nothing wrong with the tactics. The reason we lost tonight wasn't suspensions or injuries, and I'll take this to the Villa game as well. After how we played, it's bad decision making in the final third of the pitch and not being clinical enough with our finishes. We spoke about this. Son is really our only goal scorer. I wouldn't say any of the other players are known for their goal scoring ability. No. Maddison is out, obviously. He nicks a goal. Kulusevski has weighed in with a couple more recently. But there is just not enough goals. And
the thing with Kulusevski is that most of his goals come from when other people have done the work. Like, he puts it, like the goal at Bournemouth, it was a great finish, but he's on the end of the cross. He's not one really to... I mean, this is what frustrates me a little bit with Kulusevski, is that there are plenty of times where you think, look, you can skip inside whenever you want, right? Like, that seems to be very easy for him to skip inside whoever he's playing, whoever he's up against. But then at some point, you have to take shots on. Like, as awful as it is, West Ham created nothing tonight. They got a very fortunate ricochet, and then obviously the winner was a mistake from us. But outside of that, they didn't really test Vicario either. But we have to do that more. When you've got the possession, you've got to test the keeper. You've got to keep West Ham guessing, and we just never did. West Ham, after a while, were quite comfortable because they knew what Spurs were going to do. And when I say comfortable, it wasn't easy for them to defend against us, but we didn't make it as difficult as we could have or as we should have. And like early on, when we've got the midfield working, and I think personally, like you said, I think Bissouma and Højbjerg worked really well. I think Udogie and Porro were great first half. Lo Celso as well. Those 5 were dominating things, and we had the ball. And then when you play through, you've got to get a pass right, and the pass is going to go to the wingers almost always. It's rare that you can slide it through to Son, so it has to go out wide. And we've not mentioned his name yet, but Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski, they don't do what's required. Kulusevski loves to cut inside, but from there it's passed sideways. It's rarely a shot. It's rarely anything that could hurt the defense. And Brennan Johnson, we never see him go down the outside. Now, I realize he's not left-footed, and I know that he obviously created the winner over the equalizer on Sunday against Man City, but generally speaking, you know what he wants to do. You know what he's going to do. He's going to go backwards. He's going to go sideways, but he's not going to run for the byline. And whether he's just decided that that's going to be Udogie's job, I don't know, but I don't think he offers enough. And I feel as if weirdly, the best football that we've played, I still maintain the football, as good as it was tonight, and it was very good first half, we played great football. The best, most threatening half an hour of football we've played was at home against Villa in the last game. The first half an hour where we had an attacking left winger, an attacking right winger. Kulusevski was between the lines in the middle. And that first half an hour, we were creating stuff. We were making bad chances, but we were making bad decisions when we got into the box. But when we were getting into the box, it was 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3. It wasn't what we saw today, which was more 4 versus 6, 4 versus 7. We have to make better decisions.
Yeah, I just obviously people won't know it in here, but me and you have had conversations before when there was talk about us buying Brennan Johnson. So this isn't a knee-jerk reaction thing from me. I said, if you're going to buy someone from Forest, we both sort of agreed this. You buy Gibbs White. I said, I'm not. I don't think Brennan Johnson's very good. I think he's weak. I just don't think he's a player of that quality. I genuinely don't, and I think I think he's a decent squad player. People can say, "Oh, we've paid lots of money for him." That's the type of money top teams drop on squad players these days, and I think he's an impact player. I agree with you, mate. He was playing against Kufau tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've got a winger who's got pace, because I think Johnson's I agree with you. His biggest feature is his pace.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get the ball maybe a little bit deeper, or they're going to beat him in a foot race. You get up against him. You try and get beyond him, and then but he just kept laying it back. It's as if he was scared to take him on. And I said to you before this, and this is what I've got to have my tin hat on. He's not fit to race. A lot of people don't rate Raheem Sterling. He's not fit to race Raheem Sterling's boots. But he's not. And you tried to sort of because obviously you've been you're not a big fan of Sterling, so I knew that. That's why I put the question to you. But if you break it down, if you actually put it out there, he's not fit to lace Sterling's boots. He's nowhere near as good.
No, and they're very different. The thing is, they're very different types of player, right? It seems as if we're going to use the elite trait that Brennan Johnson has, which is his pace, then the ball has to do the work, and you send it in front of him, and he goes down the wing, and he's got the pace to do stuff, right?
But he had a couple of chances tonight, HG. I saw a couple of times. I don't know if you did. And I think the Chelsea was running forward with the ball, and he's sort of saying, "There's a centre back here, full back here, run into that channel," and he's not done it.
We can have arguments about why he's not maybe working as hard as we think he should, but I think that's Brennan Johnson's game, right? He is there. You get the ball to him in dangerous areas, and he will use his pace and hopefully make it count. But he's not the type of winger that will beat you one-on-one. Not really. I mean, even if all he could do was knock it past the fullback and then get onto it, that would be nice to see. It would be nice to see him try. Now, I'm not going to blame him for not doing it down the left because he's not a left winger. And when we see Doku at Man City, he is very much a right-footed left winger who wants to knock the ball past you because he knows he's quicker and he knows that defenders will have to drop off because he can do that to you. Brennan Johnson has never been that player. He isn't that player. So to ask him to do that on the left-hand side seems a bit weird because he's never done it at Forest. He didn't do it at Lincoln. He was always down the right. So how can we get Brennan Johnson firing seems to be a question that we need to start asking because right now he's playing every game and he's playing a lot of minutes in every game and clearly Ange rates him. So is it just going to be a matter of time for him to learn the system? Because obviously he didn't have a preseason at Spurs. He got injured very quickly after joining Spurs. So he's not played that much, right? And I know I saw a comment in the last one where it was like, why am I down on Brennan Johnson? I'm down on Brennan Johnson because I don't really see what he can do. I know the traits he has, but he's not shown it on the pitch. And if that means the team has to do something to help that, that's great. I want to see us do it. But when I look at a left winger, and I think this has been true the whole season, we've had Solomon, we've had Son as a left winger, we've had Richarlison as a left winger. But before Brian Hill, the best we looked was when Perisic came on and played down the left, and we had a true touchline hugging winner. And that's kind of what we need. I don't think we're almost getting too narrow. If Kulusevski's on one side cutting in, and Brennan Johnson clearly wants to do the same when he's bothered, we're not using the whole width of the pitch, and we need to. Ange ball will work more if the fullbacks know, or they don't know what we're going to do. We are very predictable right now, and it's a problem.
What do you think to this? Sonny looked to be sulking a lot today. We haven't really got a viable alternative, have we, HD? Because Sonny is an elite finisher. That's why I think he gets picked every week. Obviously, he's the captain, great player. I'm not knocking him, and he's an elite finisher. But we haven't really got any other alternative, have we?
Not a good one. I mean, like if you play
No,
Richarlison as the 9, and obviously he came on and played centre forward, and we moved Sonny out left, then you've got to play to his strengths, right?
just cross him.
And which, to be fair, that's what we tried. Like Porro, like when Richarlison came on, we suddenly saw Porro in advanced areas. We saw him trying to whip the ball in. The best chance we created was just that. It was a Porro cross to Richarlison. So I get it. But if you want to play Ange ball, Richarlison isn't your man. If you want to start a game with a number 9, then you need to be able to supply him. And that would mean maybe playing Porro as the right-sided winger and Emerson at right back. Because then you might have people who are hugging that touchline. Then you could have Kulusevski as an 8 inside. That would work.
Yeah.
Like if it was Porro as the right winger and also then helping to get back to with Emerson behind him, that to me makes a lot of sense. But again, we talked before we went on air, like Man United last night, like Man United have a load of squad players who no one thinks any of them are particularly world class. Like Bruno can have his day, but you look at that team and you think, lots of good to very good, but no one incredible. No one that exciting. But that 11 they played against Chelsea last night was a very balanced 11. They had a right back at right back, a left back at left back. They had a defensive midfielder and a box-to-box midfielder. They had a central striker who knew his job. They had wingers who play there week in, week out. They know that role. And Spurs, we really haven't done that much this season. And when the substitutions were made in the second half, it felt as if, weirdly, Spurs got worse with every one. And by the end of it, it was very disorganised. I don't want to say... Go on.
Do you think Son is a true centre forward? Or like like people will say about an Ange centre forward does this, or I don't really get into tactics or don't really watch a lot of other teams anymore, or and stuff like that, and look at certain players. But do you? I think Son is a great player. He's an elite finisher. He definitely is. So this isn't me getting on at him. Mm-hmm. I think you've got to have him in the team somewhere. But do you think he is a centre forward? HG, because what I look at a centre forward is sometimes what we need is somebody who can finish like Son, definitely, but who can also, I suppose Son's movement is good. They were saying the weekend, sometimes can get the ball and link it off and lay it off a little bit better and then spin and turn and get in those positions. Or is that not the type of player we're looking for?
I feel like with Ange ball, when Ange ball is at its best, and I saw a weird quote from Ange today that talked about how Sonny, not only has he scored 9 goals for Spurs, but he's also top of the offside goals chart, which I didn't know existed. Doesn't feel like something you'd want to be top of.
No.
But it shows that when we're playing Ange ball quite well, the goals that Son has scored that have ended up being offside for, half a foot or whatever, it's because the ball is worked out wide and Son makes a quick run round the corner and the ball is played to him and then he's through. And I think Son is perfect for that. So I genuinely think that Son is a pretty good choice to be a centre forward for Ange ball, especially against the better teams. But when teams play a low block and that space isn't really there for Son to run into, then what? Because I don't think he's a left winger in Ange ball either. No. He's not the type, like when there's no space to run into, we have a problem, right? And I think that's why we saw that Perisic was so good in the first half of the season before he got injured, because when we were chasing games, which would often be the case when, early on, or not chasing games, but just
trying to get something.
He was capable of doing stuff we needed. Whether it was just crossing it in, he could do that. He could
either foot.
Either foot. But he could make defenses like just worry about the quality of a cross, right? Because like if teams do play a low block against us, you've got to go out wide. And if there's no quality coming in, or you're not moving the ball fast enough, or there are no runners from midfield, or no shots from distance, then I'll do what Zuma did. I'll just stand on the edge of the 18-yard box, and if the ball comes my way, I'll head it clear, right?
Yeah.
And so, like the closest we came to a second goal, I think, was when Zuma hit the post of an own goal, right? But again, that was a simple ball across the box. We had the defense turned, but I don't think we did anything amazing to be able to do that. We just moved the ball around, and suddenly Lo Celso was in down that left.
Yeah.
And if the ball's a bit lower or it goes off a different part of the shin, then we're 2-0 up with an own goal, and we're all laughing again. But it does feel as if Spurs are, I don't want to say 90% of the way there, because moving the ball the way we do in midfield is brilliant. Right? And genuinely, we look a top quality side when we can do that. But if you can't hurt teams, or if teams find it very easy to kind of suffocate what you do, then there's a problem. And as we talked about a lot, it does seem to come down to the decisions we make in those areas. We had a few scuffed shots. We had a few shots that were taken too early when they didn't need to be. Well, we never really created a good chance. Even the one in the second half that Porro smashed at Fabianski, he never really had his feet set because he was worried about getting the shot away quickly. And so the power might have been there, but the accuracy wasn't. And that's it with Spurs. We're not using the full width of the pitch, which makes it easier for teams to defend. And then we seem to be, certainly in the second half, playing players kind of in the wrong position a little bit, and that just made it easier. Like I feel like in the last few games, our substitutions haven't necessarily helped Spurs. Yeah. It's been more about giving players minutes or fresh legs, if anything.
Lo Celso, for me, was a strange decision, HG. I thought he had a decent game again today. I thought he got on the ball. He was probing. He is quite good at, he was looking for through balls. He was bringing it through, and he was trying to tell people in front of him where to move. And then did we bring Skip on for him?
Yeah. It was the first double substitution, which I think Richarlison came on and Skip came on. And so it would have been Lo Celso and... Help me, who else went off? This is where I'm struggling. I always forget because Johnson stayed on. Højbjerg went off. So it was more probably Højbjerg for Skip and Richarlison for Lo Celso. Yeah. So I understand it, but like we've said it all season, that like we needed creativity. Like if Bissouma and Højbjerg are a bit too defensive for you and you want to change something, Skip isn't going to do it. Like, I think we all think that Pap Sarr is a better player than Skip and more suited to what we do. But if Sarr's not fit, then fine. But if he's fit enough to come and play 10 minutes, then he could have played 20, I think, personally. It just felt as if that, even though it was 1-1 at the time, or maybe we were 2-1 down by this point. No, it was 1-1 when Lo Celso and Højbjerg went off.
Yeah.
And like I get the logic of wanting to win the game, but I do feel like the choices we made were the wrong ones, right? Like Ange, when it comes to tactics and the way we play, we're all behind it. We really are. But it feels as if the combination of players hasn't ever really been right this season. Right, whether it was left wing and we looked great when Perisic came on, and that seemed a better fit for the role, and then he got injured, or we've seen other options like obviously Bentancur came in, played a couple of games, looked very good, got injured again. So maybe it is more we haven't been able to play the best combinations. But I personally, I would rather see Brian Hill at left wing than Brennan Johnson. And that doesn't mean I think Brennan Johnson's a better player or a worse player. I just think he's not left winger, and Brian Hill is simply that. Try and get your best players in the positions that they play week in, week out.
But for me, whatever we do, and this is the issue, and I always go back to our group, there's a few of us who sort of agree, a few of us who don't. Son will bag goals. Kulusevski's weighed in with 3 or 4, which he's doing all right, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But even Solomon injured. Perisic, totally agree with what you're saying with what he does, but Perisic, Solomon, Hill, Johnson. I think we've got about 6 forward players. If you take Son out, then who are our forwards, HG? You've got Richarlison, Kulusevski, Johnson, Hill, Solomon, Perisic. 6 players, So out
to
of
me,
6 forwards, how many
Mhm.
goals would you expect? Would you not our forwards at the minute? Just if
Okay.
you've got 6 forwards, how many goals would you expect off them in a season?
Between them all,
Yeah,
I don't
between
know,
them all.
45 like, in all competitions,
Yeah,
45, 50. I mean, they
I
should
bet
be.
you. I'd be
Yeah.
surprised if all our lot get 20,
No, I mean,
apart from Son.
yeah, quite
Well,
like.
take Son out of the equation.
Oh, yeah. If you take Sonny out of the equation, then we might be lucky to get 20. You're right. I would go
We'll be
with that.
lucky. The rest of them, you'll be lucky to get 15, 20 out the rest of them, and that's the issue. And that is a big issue. I mean,
Yeah.
like we're talking about. So we're talking about Kulusevski going forward. Now, frustrating he can be because he's a brilliant. I love Kulusevski.
Mhm.
Would you play him in the middle? So I'm looking at it from
Yes.
what I've seen. I'd play him more centrally, and I'd be more inclined to go and get 2 forward players to play in
Mhm.
those roles that can do that job better, and
Wingers,
use
you mean? Yeah.
Kulusevski as an attacking midfielder.
I definitely think Kulusevski suits that position more in the way that Ange wants to play.
Yeah,
Like he's not a bad right winger. Like he'd be perfectly fine to play there, relatively often, but he can't go both ways with any real conviction. It's always cutting inside. It's
yeah,
always the same thing.
and
And
that
like
and that
again,
holds
like
it up, doesn't it? HG,
it does.
you
And
can't. Yeah,
but I feel like it's also if he played more centrally, being able to because he's obviously very good with a body swerve. He can get defenders like kind of off balance.
yeah,
If he can do that in central areas, then he's got more space to maneuver. I suppose it's not that weird that if he's getting the ball on the touchline and he's all left foot, well, of course he's going to cut inside. Of course he is. But it just feels like we have to have variety going forward, and
yeah.
that's where Spurs were lacking, especially once Lo Celso and when he went off. Suddenly, we looked very much like we only had one way of attacking, and I was amazed that it took as long as it did for Brian Hill to come on. Not that I think that Brian Hill is a fantastic player, but it was about spreading things. It was about using the whole pitch, things that Spurs hadn't done really until it was 1-1 and we started try and do things differently. But I mean, there were times after we made those first substitutions, it felt like Porro was the right winger and Kulusevski was the right back because Brennan Johnson was inside Porro a lot. And that doesn't help. It might help Porro because he's a good crosser of the ball, but it doesn't help Brennan Johnson to be like sort of the inside right, as they used to say. It doesn't help Kulusevski to be playing right back. Like there's a problem there, and there was a better solution to those roles that we could have had, and so it felt like tonight we didn't lose because of the substitutions, but we didn't get better because of them.
No,
And you would hope that we would.
yeah, but I mean, it's sort of a little bit for me. Where do we go from here? Because I always think winning's a habit, but so's losing. But that's a bad defeat tonight, HG, isn't it? I know you're right. We played
Yeah.
well. I thought we played well first half, and we weren't awful really. We were awful in the final third. We sort of ran out of ideas. So we're not an awful team, but that is a bad defeat, isn't it?
I feel like we played that game 10 times. Spurs win 7 of them 1-0, right? Or
Yeah,
maybe 2-0. Like Spurs will win
yeah,
that game not 7 times out of 10. Tonight we saw the 10th, right? Because
yeah,
as Adrian says, West Ham's goals, a double ricochet led to an open goal, and then the fact that Udogi it was like I don't want to blame the kid. Like I thought actually Udogi was
yeah.
probably our best player the whole game. I thought
I
if
thought
anyone was
Porro was
going to
good.
I thought if anyone was going to get us into the game or back in the lead, it was going to be Udogi making those runs because again, he was the one willing to do so. He was the one using the energy he has and the pace that he has to try and hurt West Ham. I just didn't see it from anyone else. It was we've got to get the players in the right positions. It's not a question of getting whoever we think is best. It's who works well together. Basuma and Højbjerg today worked well together, right? Lo Celso, Basuma and Højbjerg as a three, I'm more than happy with, right? But if we're looking to get goals, then Højbjerg comes out and Kulusevski is the one that plays there, right? Because
I think that's what they do.
yes, it's a bit more. Um, like you might worry about conceding, right? Obviously, you would do
Yeah,
because Kulusevski isn't that defensively orientated, certainly from midfield. But if you want to go and win the game, that's what you need to do. And we just kind of got it wrong. Ange got it a little bit wrong tonight. the style of football, no one has a complaint with, but we've got to create more chances. And that, to me, is down to which 11 you send out and can they do it? Can they work together?
I think Sarr will come in for Højbjerg. I think you've got to keep Lo Celso in there. But mate, I think, but I'm not sure. I think you've got to have the call for putting, but we haven't got the players, have we? I'm talking about putting Kulusevski in the middle and then freeing up the wide players. But I think we've got to go.
We do. We do have players for that. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if Brendan Johnson's down the right, or if Porro's down the right, and you have Emerson Royal at right back, the players are there. Like, we've got 3 major injuries, right? Obviously, Van der Ven, Madison, and Bentancur are huge injuries because those 3 would be playing minutes in every game. They may not be starting all 3 of them, but they would be playing huge minutes. But outside of that, I mean, we had 4 of our best 5 at the back tonight. The midfield 3 wasn't bad. The attacking 3 wasn't great. But again, like, Son is our best. Son is our best middle striker, and Brennan Johnson probably is one of the best wingers that we have. Certainly one of the best ones we've got fit. So I don't want to use injuries as a problem right now. Like, we are playing good football, and weirdly, we've played good football since Van der Ven and Madison went down.
Yeah,
right. Like, we've played good football. Go on.
Chelsea, we were, a whisker away from getting a draw with 9 men.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, Wolves, we were poor, weren't we? I thought that was a poor result. Villa, regardless of suspensions and injuries and referee calls, whatever you want to make, we should have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
We had enough chances and played enough football to win that game, very similar to tonight. Man City was a decent, a well-deserved result. So I'm with you, mate. I know we have got suspensions and injuries, but that's not the reason we're losing games at the moment.
Right, we don't have any suspensions anymore. I mean, that's the thing.
Is Udogie out on Sunday now? Did he get booked and he's out Sunday?
I don't think he got booked. Maybe he did. I mean, the commentators didn't say that for me, so I don't know. But the point that King Hoddle makes here that you put up, right? At 1 point out of 18, if we lose, that's horrific. But I still believe, weirdly, that we are playing better now than we did when we were winning games. It is somehow very odd to think that we were winning games with Richarlison at left wing when he was absolutely garbage as a left winger. Let's be honest, he wasn't good. And yet Brennan Johnson's come in, and I think we haven't won a game that he started. I mean, is this like the Welsh winger syndrome that Bale had? I don't think Brennan Johnson is a terrible player. I really don't. I think he's a better left winger than Richarlison. I will stand by that at least. But it's kind of weird to think that we were winning games and playing badly, and now we're playing quite well, and we're just not doing enough. We're not getting over the line.
Is it a mental thing?
No, because I just feel that when we weren't playing well but winning, it was okay to be like, okay, well, we got away with 1 there, right? I mean, like the Luton game, obviously we were down to 10, but Luton could have equalised easily. Sheffield United could have beaten us. Man United could have beaten us. Like, Burnley went 1-0 up. Do you know what I mean? Like, all those games at the start of the season that we won, Palace, I mean, I was there. We were horrific that night. We barely had an attack in the first half, but we got 2 goals very quickly in the second, and we saw it out. But I don't feel like we played football. Like, we were playing better than we expected, but we weren't creating huge amounts of chances even then. I feel like the Burnley game and that first 20 minutes at Luton was when we looked actually pretty good. But outside of that, we were solid and we took advantage of other teams' mistakes. And now other teams are taking advantage of our mistakes, which they weren't early on. So it's weird to feel like we're getting better even though results are getting worse. But maybe the results early on weren't really indicative of how good we were. And they're not indicative of how good we are now either. So it's a tough place to be. Like, I feel like we would be better with our better 3 players fit, obviously, but I also feel that, had those 3 played tonight, we still might have lost that game 2-1 because the goals that we conceded had nothing to do with the players that were really on the pitch.
Because I thought Davis had a decent game. The fact that Van der Ven wasn't playing, I don't think cost us. I thought Davis was all right. He did perfectly well. But, I mean, it's like, I mean, I'm not sure. This front 3 thing is obviously a big thing for me. I don't think, like, about it clicking, I don't think they're good enough. I think Son is good enough. I think Kulusevski is a very good player, but I think he's better suited elsewhere. I don't think we've got the players in the front three. But, I mean, I always said, we did a thing at the start of the season, me and you were on HG, where we did our reviews, where I was probably a bit harsh then, because I didn't think it would click, and I said we'd finish 8th. But watching us now, and this isn't because I think we're a great team. I think there's, you look at it now and you can see what we're trying to do and where we're going to go, and hopefully things, will get better. But I think we were talking about top form because we had such a good start. It's distorted it a bit, because I think we are only a Europa League team at the minute. I think that is our level at the minute, and that's not me knocking what we're doing or saying we're rubbish. Because people start talking about Champions League and and we look good because after 10 games, whatever, we haven't lost. When I look at the other teams, Villa have had an extra 8 months or whatever under Emery, and he's doing well. I know they had a bad result tonight at Newcastle, but they're further down the line with Eddie Howe. Obviously, the teams in front of us have sort of got themselves a little bit better. And Man United is still hanging around like a bad smell. If they get rid of Ten Hag and get somebody decent in, that we could be struggling there. And I think but I think we are a Europa League team. I think, like finishing in European football for Tottenham is a must this year. So I think whatever type we can get, we need. That's what we need to do.
I think it's very much like, because you predicted at the start of the season that Spurs would finish 8th, and I said 5th. And I said 5th mostly because I didn't think there were that many teams better than us. And I thought that if we clicked, which I thought we were going to, we've got attacking players and we had an attacking manager. So I thought we would win lots of games, and we are winning lots of games. And I do think that in the second half of the season, we will win more than we are now. I maintain that. And it's not just because players are getting back. I think that just we've got some very, very good players that can play the way Ange wants. What we don't have really is a second striker, someone who can put the ball in the back of the net on half chances or whatever, because that's kind of what we need. We're not creating great chances. We're only creating half chances.
Someone who can just, like today, it's so crowded in the box, but someone that comes into them, one touch, bang, they turn a defender, or just a little bit of muscle, hold a defender off and get a shot away. Yeah, I agree with you, HG. Sorry for putting in.
No, I think that like this is I agree completely with this.
Yeah.
Right. Like none of us are calling for Ange's head. I don't care if he's a one-trick pony, as I saw in a previous comment. Like, I think that one trick that he has is good enough to get us where we want to go. Like, I genuinely do. Obviously, you're going to need different types of players to play that, but it's not as if we're just going to play one way. Like we will be able to decide, hey, now's a good time to do it. Where are we going to do it? But we are going to become an attacking force. I have no doubt about it. The problem is that we really don't have attacking players fit that Ange massively trusts. He likes Kulusevski at right wing because he's played there a lot this season. But maybe deep down, he's always earmarked Johnson for that role, and suddenly Johnson is forced to play left side because there's no one else he wants to play there, right? And it is all about the system. It is all about teaching the players the way he wants to play. And he's used Højbjerg more than he wants to, because I think he knows that long-term Højbjerg's going. And he's used Lo Celso more than he wants to for the same reason. So it does feel like there are players that maybe are part of our best team right now that Ange doesn't necessarily want to play. If Sarr's fit to start on Sunday, he will start over Højbjerg. I've no doubt about that. And again, it's not because I think Sarr is a massively better player than Højbjerg. I just think that Ange sees a future with him and so wants to back that future. It's a tough time to be a Spurs fan, but again, like tonight wasn't really about how West Ham were better than us. It wasn't really about how bad Spurs were, because we weren't. It was about the fact we didn't create enough, and West Ham, who also didn't create enough, managed to get two that they couldn't miss. And that's really it. They could not miss those 2 goals. Whereas Spurs, we never looked like scoring a second.
No.
We had the ball, but go on.
I said this at the weekend. And I actually put it on Twitter. There's nothing wrong. Like the press and the media and that will say, "Oh, Ange Postecoglou needs." There's nothing wrong with the way Ange plays. There's nothing wrong with what we're doing or how we're trying to do it. It's how we implement.
Execution.
The execution of the plan. It's not how we play football. We've proved that playing that way of football can work. It's shooting yourself in the foot and not executing the plan going forward. That is the problem. So it isn't a problem. It is a personnel issue. So we go into Newcastle, HG. What do you do? Because I mean, it's not the end of the world, like you said. It's the long game, and I think most level-headed Spurs fans will know that. But to lose another game is going to be a hit, isn't it? A big, and at home as well. You look, Villa haven't lost at Villa Park for so long, and you really need to be making your home stadium a fortress. And what Tottenham Hotspur Stadium's like for open season, isn't it?
I think tonight was the first time we've lost 3 games at home in a row in the new stadium. Like they said that on my commentary. But again, like those 3 defeats, like Spurs didn't play terribly in any of them. I mean, like I know it's very easy to sit here and be like, hey, you've got that hierarchy, right, where you want to play well and win is your first option, and then play badly and win is your second option, and then play badly and lose, right? I mean, sorry, play well and lose is your third, and play badly. Like that's kind of where we are right now. We're at the stage where we're playing well. I do think things will turn, but it might be in a massive game that we think we're not going to get anything where things turn. Some team is going to get a hiding from us. Right, and it could easily be Newcastle. It's more likely going to be Forest a few days later, but one team is going to get a hiding from us because things will click. The question is, what can we do to make it click as quickly as possible? Because, like, you know, as one of the commentators at the comments said earlier, we played 8 of our best team tonight.
Yeah,
right. Like we were only missing 3, and so, like, and you know, the players that came in for those 3 didn't play badly tonight. I don't think any of them played badly tonight. So you've just got to figure out, like, how are we going to create better chances? What can we do to make that happen? And if Ange decides he's going to stick with the players that are playing because he feels that there's a future, then great. It will mean Sarr comes in for Højbjerg on Sunday. I do think that's going to happen. But he will probably play Johnson again over Brian, if only because he thinks that Brian's not going to stay long term, or he doesn't want him to stay long term, where he's clearly invested time and money in Brennan Johnson. He wants to see him like get used to Ange ball. He does. He will.
Mate,
like you don't spend the money that we spent on Brennan Johnson to get rid of him after a season. Like he's going to get at least 2 years. No, I know, but like you and I both think that he struggles and he may not be good enough, but it's one of those things. We've got to give these players time.
He's a good. I think, mate. He's an impact player. Mm-hmm. When I look at him and I watch him play, I see an impact player. I see a guy who could probably play mid-table, week in, week out, maybe around there. But I see him. If you want to challenge for the top, he is a squad. He's an excellent squad player and a good impact player off the bench, and a good rotation option. That's what I see. I do not see a top level player. And as I said to you, I know he's playing for a team who is shit at the minute, Chelsea, but Raheem Sterling has moments where he doesn't do anything in games. Like you were talking about, that he's sort of always on the periphery. He's on the end of something good or whatever they do. Well, if Johnson was even that, we'd be better off.
And that's just it. Like the goal he scored at Wolves, that's exactly what he was.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like the other players created the chance, and then he turned on the jets to get to the front post and score.
Yeah.
Like it's saddening that we don't see the one thing he's elite at, because we really don't see it very often. We don't see it in defensive when he's tracking back, and we rarely see it going forward. And when that is your major asset, it's a problem.
Yeah,
right?
Like
if Bissouma doesn't control the ball in midfield, then what's the point of playing him? Because he doesn't have a goal threat. Do you know what I mean? Like if he's not doing his job, then there's a problem, and it's tough because it does feel as if we're picking players based on maybe what we want to happen in the future, as opposed to what's best for now, which I don't mind so much. But like certainly when it comes to making substitutions, we have to then try and do something different. We can't just say, right, you guys have got long-term deals and the manager likes you more, so you're going to get the minutes. Because as the comment says here, the subs caused a greater imbalance. That's completely and utterly true.
Yeah.
We did not get better. We did not change things for the better. We just gave fresh minutes to be players with fresh legs.
Yeah, I mean, Leon put something on earlier, HG,
mm-hmm.
and it was obviously saying, look, we're going to win a game. We've got rid of Kane. Kane's fucked off to Germany. We're going nowhere because we're trying to chase a game, and we've brought Skip and Valise on. And and Sarr. And like you said, I do like Sarr, but if he's not, you never feel like he's going to come and change your game. He's one of those players who gets box to box, but he's not a goal scorer or a game changer.
I feel like when Brian Hill came on, you did the whole like 4-4-2 to whoever it was. I feel like he was telling people what we were going to do, and at that point, it made sense, right? Because Hill would have been left wing, Kulusevski would have been right wing, and we had Richarlison and Valise in the middle, and maybe we were just going to pepper them with crosses. But that might have been a plan, but we never did that. Right, Udogie was rarely left back at that point. I feel like Papsar and Skip were like the two midfielders trying to start and finish everything. And it was just sadly a bad end to a bad night. But I'm still. I mean, I see the comments about Newcastle and about how they're all tired because they've had the same 11 play most of the games for the last few weeks. That could easily work in Spurs' favour, absolutely. But I do believe that if Spurs play as well as they did tonight, including the whole game, not just the first half, if they play that well and the decision making is slightly better, we will whoop a team. Like we will beat a team quite easily. But I don't know when the decision making is going to get better. I don't know when I look at the players, who do I trust the most to make good decisions in attacking areas? And that's that we've got to figure out who works well with each other. We can't just go on reputation or whatever it is we're going on.
No, well, that's for Big Ange to sort on Sunday. Obviously, we got Newcastle. I'm going to wrap it up there, HG, because I've got to go. I've got work tomorrow, and it's been a late night, and obviously, I'm really pissed off. So, but it's been good to have a little chat, mate.
Happy birthday again.
Got a little bit, No, mate. Well, fucking Spurs ruin it, but
next year will be better. Next year, there's always next year, Gibbo.
I've been saying that for a long time, mate. But hopefully it will come true. But thanks for everyone in the comments. HG, thanks for coming on, mate, and
come on, you Spurs.
Trying to help me guys. Yeah. Come on, you
Spurs forever, Gibbo. Spurs forever. Yeah. Don't worry about the fact your wife supports Villa. Don't worry about how they're flying. Spurs will be fine. Right? These are the bumps that we thought we would see earlier on in the season and we didn't. But they are here, and the players, I believe, will be good enough to get them. So, in a month's time, we could easily be top 4. I do believe that, genuinely. Even though we've got lots of games without good players, I think we can be there.
Let's get to January. We got to win on Sunday. But yeah, everyone, thanks for all your comments. Thanks for joining us, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.